What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream on the Texas Rangers Report. And in this live stream, we are going to be going over some more big news/rumors regarding the Texas Rangers, and that is regarding Trevor Story. Sorry if I made you guys wait for a little bit. I was watching the end of the Baylor game. They lost, but here we go. So if you guys aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe right now because I'm your number one source for all things Texas Rangers. And if you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, make sure to do that. That link will be in the description down below. So this Trevor Story rumor is pretty interesting, and I kind of do believe it because, well, first of all, last night in the Discord, there was a Facebook account that said the Rangers rekindle talks with Trevor Story. And I didn't really believe it because it was some anonymous Facebook account. But today, let me pull up. Evan Grant tweeted that the Rangers were in on Trevor Story. They rekindle talks. So this is extremely interesting. So let me share my screen real quick. Here we go. So right here, Rangers rekindle talks with Trevor Story. And if you go over to MLB trade rumors, you click on latest on Trevor Story. The Rangers are one of the latest clubs to be linked with free agent shortstop Trevor Story per Evan Grant. Honestly, I thought about this. He could fill a void at third base. He could fill it in left field. There is obviously a lot of reward you can get from signing Trevor Story, but there are some things that we should worry about as well. He does play in Coors Field, so that has inflated some of his numbers. Another thing is that his arm strength has declined over the past 2 years. So if you signed him, would third base really be the best since you have to throw the furthest distance from third base? So would left field make more sense? But then who would play third base for us? Because I know Chris Woodward has said Brad Miller would make the most sense in the outfield. But let's just be real. Let's just think about it. So if you sign Story, he would probably play third base. I think that makes the most sense, even with his arm issue. But we would lose another draft pick. So I think it would be our 4th round draft pick. Plus, we would lose out on international bonus pool money. But if you think about this, I think he could net a similar contract to the likes of Carlos Correa, where it's a 3-year deal with a player option, kind of like Correa, Trevor Story, and maybe a no trade clause. But I don't know if Story has the type of market to get a no trade clause. But what could be interesting is that if we aren't competing after this year or at the trade deadline, we could use him as a trade piece and say he reclaims his value as one of the best shortstops in the league. He could have really good trade value because obviously if the Rangers are just going to sign him to a short-term deal, I think the Rangers want 2 years. Trevor Story wants 4 years. Obviously, they don't see him in the future plans for the Texas Rangers. I think they just view this as, wow, I can't believe he's still here on the market. But could you imagine if he gets traded and he reclaims his value? There's always teams that need a shortstop. And we're losing out on our 2nd-round pick because of Seager, a 3rd-round pick because of Simeon. And if we sign Story, we'll lose out on our 4th-round pick and some international bonus money. I think because we signed Seager and Simeon, we also lose out on some later round picks. But if you think about it, if you trade Trevor Story, that guy could probably get the value back of a 1st rounder or a 2nd and a 3rd. This could be worth it. I don't know if signing Miguel Conforto would be worth it because there's always outfielders available, but there's not. Everybody is always in need of a shortstop. He sets up prime position because Conforto has a qualifying offer. So did Nick Castellanos. So does Trevor Story. So this could be a nice. I've read about this, maybe something similar to Marcus Semien of last year, signs a 1-year deal with the Blue Jays, reclaims his value, then gets a massive deal on the trade market. So maybe Trevor Story's looking something similar to that, because if he hit the free agent market any other year in his career, he'd be getting the bag right now. Because let me just look up his Fangraphs. Trevor Story. This guy, this guy does have some really good stats, and even though he had a down year, it wasn't terrible according to his actual WAR. Um, whenever I look up his stuff, hold up, add to stream. There we go. Whenever I look up his WAR, remember that in 2020, it was a shortened season. So if you times that by his 2.5, times it by 2.7, that would give him a WAR of like 6. So it would follow off with a 5.1, a 6 WAR, and then another 6 WAR season. That's really, really good for Trevor Story. So like I'm saying, this guy could have gotten the bag any other year, but I heard in the Discord, shout out to Tato, he said Trevor Story just bought a house in Irving. Take it as you want it. Obviously, players buy houses where they think they'll spend the season, but obviously, guys are so rich they can buy a house wherever they want. But obviously, Trevor Story was born in Irving. But look at that. Trevor Story still had a 3.5 WAR season, even though it was a down year for him. But things to note, he plays in Coors Field. His stats are worse in Coors Field. So let me show you the splits. Home versus road. So at home, if this loads, at home, Trevor Story throughout his career has a 125 weighted runs created plus, which is really good. That means he's better than 25% of hitters in the league, and his WOBA is 402, which is really, really good. But then if we go over and look at his away stats, his weighted runs created plus is a 98, which is his average is 100, so that's 2% lower than league average. And then his WOBA is around league average at 321. Obviously, there have been guys that have had better home than road splits whenever playing at Coors Field, like Matt Holliday, like DJ Lemayo, Nolan Arenado, and they've turned around and have had better success. Well, not better success, but they still have quality seasons with a new team. Could that be the case? Maybe, but I think it's worth noting that I feel like the Astros might be a front runner because obviously they need a shortstop because they don't have what's his face Correa anymore. The Red Sox, we have to note them, but I don't really think the Red Sox have a chance of signing Story because I think he wants to stay local, even though he does want to be on a competing team. I mean, if we get Story, I think we'll be competing, even though we won't have the pitching staff. I think our hitting will be really good. And let me just say this. Story isn't like an insane hitter, but he is a 5-tool player when everything's working for him. So look at his stats versus left-handed pitching throughout his career. A weighted runs created plus of 146 and a WOBA of 415. That's insane. But then if you look at his stats versus right-handed pitching, it drops to 98 weighted runs created plus and a WOBA of 342, which is still solid, but just worth noting. So this is crazy. But if you think about it, like if Trevor Story recoups his value, could we use him in a trade for an elite starting pitcher at the trade deadline? Who knows? I feel like there's a lot of possibilities, especially with these short-term deals. Let me look up Carlos Correa's deal. Twins honestly, how much of a genius does the front office staff of the Twins look like right now? Whenever some people said that IKF and Donaldson deal was trash, and now they dropped the salary of Donaldson and they signed Carlos Correa. Let me get to some of these comments. From Chaz Tidwell, what is up? Nice to see you guys here. Samuel Sandite, Story will probably play third base or left field. Most likely, I don't really see him playing anywhere else. I mean, he could play center field and move Adolis over to left, possible. But look at this. Carlos Correa, he has he signed a 3-year contract, $35 million, with a modified no trade clause. I really don't know if Story would get the no trade clause because his value isn't as high. Probably would get 3 years, $60 million in my opinion, so $20 million a year. But then he has the player option. You could do something similar with Story, a player option after the second year or after the first. You never know. But maybe if you were always thinking about trading him, his value might be higher if you have it after the second year. That way, if you trade him to a team, you'll know the team will get him for at least a year and a half. Or if you hold Story for the entirety of the year, you know that the team will get him for at least a whole year. From Harley Zebrowski, and real quick, that's pretty much similar to Trevor Bauer's deal. Let me go look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure that's what it looks like. Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not sure if Max Scherzer has the same deal or not, but this could really be interesting. Obviously, like I said, we'd lose a draft pick, but if we trade Story, which I don't know if you guys are in favor of doing, obviously we're not trading Seager or Simeon. Those guys are in for the long haul. I think those guys all have no trade clauses, but the Rangers probably just view Story as wow, I can't believe you are still here, and trying to get a good player that's still on the market. For some reason, it's only showing me the Dodgers prospects, but I'm pretty sure Bauer has the same deal. From Samuel Sandite, Ezekiel Duran to the Reds for Castillo. I don't know if Castillo's on the trade block anymore. From Tato, you also trading Win because that's what it's going to take. I mean, I do think there's a possibility that Duran would get a trade done for Castillo, but obviously it would take other people. Tato, you guys have to understand that hitting away from Coors Field is harder. Balls don't break as sharp in Coors. That's why it takes a hitter a little time to adjust, but it's possible. Look at Arenado for sure. Let me look at Nolan Arenado's stats last year. I know Nolan Arenado doesn't have the best baseball savant metrics. But one thing to note, I read somewhere that even though Trevor Story's numbers, home versus road, like they're better at Coors Field, of course, worse on the road, his advanced metrics still look the same, no matter where he was. So let's look at this. Nolan Arenado wasn't the best season of his career. His best stretch was coming from 2015 all the way to 2019, but he still put up a weighted runs created plus of 113. His WOBA was 336, not the best of his career. You can obviously see that his offensive production did drop off. His weighted runs created plus dropped off from like 120s to 130s to going down to 113. His WOBA was in the 380s to 390s consistently, dropped off to 336. But he still put up a productive season. That could be since there's really good hitters in St. Louis. He had protection. Obviously, you have Goldie, you have Tyler O'Neill. Who else? Those are the few I can think of right now. Do I think Story's production would drop off? Yes, but that's why I do think he hasn't been signed yet because of his arm issue, his numbers that would probably drop off. But I still think he'd be a productive hitter for sure. From Tato again, so these home road splits don't tell the whole story. There was an article posted on The Athletic that showed how it usually takes a second series away from road to improve on the numbers. Interesting. Takes hitters time to adjust to spin and break. Interesting. But obviously, if pitches don't break as well in Coors Field, if Story gets a whole year in a ballpark where pitches do break better, I think he'd be able to read pitches better, and that could help him. So I think there are some things that people don't take into account whenever evaluating players away from Coors Field. Let's look at DJ Lemayo real quick, another guy that has found success away from Coors Field. Obviously, he didn't do too great last year, but has had success nonetheless. From Samuel Sandite, did you see what the Reds got for Winker and Suarez? Not even a top 5 prospect in the Mariners system. I think Duran will get it done for Castillo. Well, that's because Suarez would those aren't apples. That's not an apples to apples comparison. Castillo's is an ace, and the Reds were trying to dump Suarez's contract. If you just get it straight for Castillo, it's going to take a lot because they're not dumping a contract in that trade. So here we have DJ Lemayo, another player from Coors Field. Look at that. In 2019, he had the best season of his career, posting a 5.4 WAR. Obviously, Lemayo doesn't pull the ball, and you have the short porches in right field in Yankee Stadium, and Yankee Stadium is a good place to hit. But obviously, he found success away from Coors Field, and then in 2020, another good season with a 2.5 WAR, and then, like I said, if you want to equate that equally to a full season, obviously, guys' production will drop off, but 2.5 times 2.7, which would account for a whole season, that would be a 6.75 WAR, which would be the best season of his career. And obviously, not the best season for him last year, but still had a 2.4 WAR. So it is possible that Story could find success in Texas, but the percent chance, I think it's decent. I do think it's decent. He's from Irving. Irving's at least 30 minutes away from Arlington. I think there's a good chance we sign him. I think Story wants 4 years. I think the Rangers want 2 years. But we will see. I know he wants to play shortstop. There's a shortstop position open with the Houston Astros. And he would still get to stay in Texas, but he did just buy a house in Irving. And just because he gets to stay in Texas, does he really want to play for the Astros? I mean, Irving is only 30 minutes away from his hometown team. This could be really interesting development as the day goes on. Obviously, if we don't sign Story, we would have different possibilities at third base. We signed Charlie Culberson to a minor league contract. We signed Matt Carpenter to a minor league contract. We have Nick Solak, who is he's getting time at left field in spring training. We have Andy Ibanez. There are options, but Trevor Story would be an immediate upgrade, even though he has his concerns with his hitting away from Coors and his arm strength getting worse. I think he'd be an immediate upgrade over any of those guys. And then you'd have Brad Miller platoon in left field. I think you'd have a platoon with Cole Calhoun and a platoon with Willie Calhoun. And I think if you have 6 guys that you can use day in and day out that don't need any platooning, I think that is good for your lineup because you'll probably have 4 guys on the bench and one being a catcher. And then you'd probably have 3 guys that you can use platoons for. And if we keep it the way it is, we'll probably need 4 platooning options. but Story could really help this lineup out. We definitely need another right-handed bat, in my opinion. I've been in on Tommy Pham. I've been in on Jorge Soler, even JD Davis, which would make some sense. I think it would make a lot of sense because I don't see any immediate playing time for him in New York, and you get 3 years of control of JD Davis. That's why I think the Rangers are looking at this and like, wow, Trevor Story, an elite shortstop in this league. We could get him on a short-term contract like Correa or Trevor Bauer and maybe flip him. Maybe that's just my mindset, but it seems like the Rangers front office has really thought of different ways to improving their roster. And like, I never thought that they'd trade Odor. I never thought that they'd trade Elvis. They did that to get a look at IKF, and then I never thought, like, always knew that there was a possibility to trade IKF this offseason, but I never really thought we would. I thought he'd be the starting third baseman. I think there's always opportunities with this front office. I never take anything for granted, for sure. From Danny, Trevor Story's 4 home runs in 6 games in Globe Life Field, I believe. By the way, thank you for everybody that's watching right now. We're up to 14 viewers. If this is your first time watching, make sure to subscribe right now. It's my number one source for all things Rangers on YouTube. And make sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. That link is in the description down below. From Tato, I would expect Story to put up an OPS of 800 to 850 in and year out. I mean, I do think that's possible for Trevor Story for sure. Let me just look at his OPSs real quick. Whenever he was with the Rockies. From Peyton, are the chances very low because Seager is on the team? I don't think so. For the reasons that I mentioned, he could play third, he could play left, maybe center. I know that there was an article last year saying there's a team interested in Story at the trade deadline to play center. Wouldn't be surprised if it was the Dodgers. I really don't think the Seager signing has anything to do with not signing Story. Obviously, there's the qualifying offer, but I just think I don't think fans or teams can really like imagine signing 3 of the top shortstops in one given offseason. I think that's why we never really thought about it. I never thought of 2. And then I kind of joked around signing Story, but if this actually happens, I think the baseball world is going to go crazy for sure. So let's look at his OPSs throughout the years. He's finished 3 seasons with an OPS of over 900 as a Rocky. 2017, below 800, below 900. I think that's possible. Obviously, I wouldn't expect the 900 OPSs, but if he could finish between 850 or 800, I think that would be perfect for sure. I think that would be, and if you're thinking about trading him, obviously you could keep him on the team for sure if he plays well. But I think the Rangers know that shortstop, and even if he plays center, those are valuable positions, and those elite players don't come around too often. So maybe since we're losing a bunch of draft picks this year, you sign Seager, Story, and because we're not trading Seager or Semien, and if we're only looking at Story to a short-term deal, you can always try to get those prospects back or players that are close to Major League ready. From Samuel Sendai, I would include Todd. Oh my God. Okay. Samuel Sendai, is Jorge Soler still a possibility? I doubt it. I think he's close to deals with the Padres or the Braves and Padres in talks with Jorge Soler. That's as of a day ago. I know the Rangers did have interest earlier after the lockout, but I haven't heard anything recently. But let me know down in the comment section below, what are the percent chances of the Rangers signing Trevor Story? Do you think we will get a deal done? What do you think the deal would be, and do you view him as a good trade ship down the road? Let me know in the comment section down below. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated. If anything else comes in, so definitely join the Discord. But if we sign Trevor Story, I would definitely do a live stream on that because that would be insane. And we'll be hitting a lot of home runs this year. Obviously, our pitching still needs some work, but if you think about it, I bet there's a team like the Marlins. Eventually, they'll need a shortstop. Could you trade Trevor Story for one of their elite pitching prospects or one of their elite pitchers? Possibly. Always think about these possibilities. From Tato. By the way, I just want to say how good our farm system is. It's the best since I can remember. There's some sneaky good players we have in the system, and some that are coming back from injury too. Yes, but just I wouldn't ever get in the mindset, oh, our farm system is so good that we don't need to acquire more talent for the farm system. Because when you get that mentality, boom, it's gone like that. And obviously, we'll be needing to trade guys eventually because we're going to want to compete sooner or later. So I think you always have the mentality to get your farm system better, because eventually that will help you at the major league level for sure, because guys will get play for you at the major league level, and you can use guys in trades. I know I say this a lot, but look at the Dodgers. They traded some of their top prospects to get Machado over the years, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. Who else? I know I'm missing out on some, but yet they still have good farm systems, which leads to players helping them out at the major league level, and they can still use guys in trades for sure, because if they wanted to trade for a good player at the deadline, I think that they would have I think they'd be in the running for almost anybody, because that's how good their farm system is year in and year out. But I think the biggest thing is don't get so stuck on your farm system that you don't compete at the major league level. I think that's something that teams like the Pirates and the Orioles do. They never worry about competing at the major league level, and they think that just building or getting prospects will help them eventually, but then they always trade those guys that are proven for more prospects. I think you have to find the good balance. But always good balance, and always building the farm system to help the major league team. And you have to know when to trade prospects and when to call them up. You guys know what I'm saying. From Samuel, Story will sign today or tomorrow, possibly. There's still good free agents on the market. And I don't think they want to wait so much longer because spring training games have started. By the way, Jack Leiter pitched yesterday. He was so, and Corey Seager hit his first Texas Rangers home run. Nate Lowe also hit a home run, but there's still good free agents on the market. I'm sure they're going to want to sign as soon as possible. That way they don't sign and then opening day is their first game with the team. Let me just pull this up and show you everybody that's still available. And can you believe that Chris Bryant has gotten the second biggest contract in free agency this year? I think that's going to be a bad contract. Like, obviously, MVP, rookie of the year, blah, blah, blah. But is he worth that? I don't know. I doubt it. His stats are going to look good playing in Coors Field. But if he was playing anywhere else, like with the Rays, that wouldn't look good in my opinion. I think that's way overpriced. But good for him. He got the bag. So let's look at the best free agents available. Obviously, it's going to say Story. It's going to say Michael Conforto. Who else? Kyle Seager. Yep, he's not coming. And actually, even though we've signed guys to minor league deals like Culberson and Matt Carpenter, and we have guys like Nick Solak and Andy Ibanez, the Rangers have reached out to Kyle Seager if he'd be interested in playing with the Texas Rangers this year, to pair up with his younger brother, and he declined that offer. So I think it really shows that the Rangers do want to continue improving this team. I'm surprised they didn't get any other starters. I mean, we have signed Garrett Richards, and Evan Grant said is probably going to be as a long reliever. I haven't made a video on that because we're pending a physical, but if it goes through, probably will. I'll come out and make a video on that. But we still got Story. We still got Michael Conforto, Tommy Pham, Jorge Soler. Two guys I think will do good. They go to at least an average hitter's ballpark. So, I mean, there's not too many good guys, but still some players that can offer value to your team. And you always have like relievers that could offer value as well. But like going back to Tato saying, I do think these last like big free agents will quickly come off the board because they want to play, they want to get their reps, and they want to get the season started off on a good note. And if they have incentives to reach those, so yeah. From Tato, IMO signing Story would take a 3-year, $70 million deal, opt out after the second year. He'll still be 31 if he wants to opt out and get a bigger deal. I think so. So what would that be a year? Average annual value, 70 divided by 3. That would be 23 million. I think so. I don't think he needs a no trade clause, and I think an opt out after the second year would make sense. And if you wanted to trade him, that would make sense too, because if you put the opt out after the first year, he can always say he has an insane year, he opts out, he's going to the market to get a bigger deal. But if you have it after the second year, you could trade him to a team. Say if you do it at the deadline, you trade him, that's a year and a half of control for the other team. Or if you do it at the end of the offseason, that's a whole year of control for them. And obviously, we won't have to worry about the qualifying offers next year. You can just sign free agents. But that's worth noting that if we were to sign him, it wouldn't make sense to let him walk because there's no qualifying offer. And I do think when you trade big time players, you get a better return in a trade rather than as a qualifying offer because you can get multiple prospects in a trade. And an offer is like after the second round, so I don't think it's really worth it. But that's probably a solid trade. I'm not sure. Maybe he wants more. Maybe the Rangers want less. I'm not sure what his actual value is. From Aggie Bro, Dodgers trade top prospects for Mookie Betts also. Yes, and David Price. Obviously, David Price was just a salary dump, but they've traded for, to touch on that, David Price. Who else? I'm drawing a blank. David Price, Max Scherzer, and Trey Turner. And they've also traded for Manny Machado, and they still have their good farm system. And they've also signed 2 players with a qualifying offer in back-to-back years in Trevor Bauer and Freddie Freeman. And they still have their good farm system. I think it's their willingness to make trades. I think it's their willingness to develop money into improving their farm system, but also spending money on the farm as well. Obviously, that could change with the international draft, but I mean, a team that has traded prospects, lost prospects because of qualifying offers, and yet they're still elite at everything, even though they've only won 1 World Series. But I mean, they're the organization you need to look up to. Waffle Man, what do you think the chances we get Story are? Right now, I think it's 50-50 because I wouldn't be surprised if the Astros are scrambling right now to sign Story because he could play shortstop for them. He gets to stay in Texas there, but I don't know if he really wants to play for the Astros. And obviously, if the Astros were to lose, if they miss out on Story, they seem like the team that can recover from that. But Story coming to Texas makes a lot of sense. He could play third or left, or don't rule out the possibility of center field. I mean, Adolis is elite at center, but I wouldn't rule that out. So I think it's 50-50, and he just bought a house in Irving, Texas as well. I feel like the Astros owner is pretty cheap, probably too cheap to sign Story, because Story might ask for more. Nah, he's not cheap. Look at the contracts he's dished out. He signed Verlander at his old age. He's re-signed Bregman. He's re-signed, I think, Altuve as well. I don't think he is cheap. But let me know if there's anything else, any other questions. I'm about to stop this live stream. But if we do sign Story, or if anything happens, I'll probably live stream or make a video. And obviously, we did sign Garrett Richards, but I haven't made the video on that because it's not official yet. I think this would be huge for the Rangers. I think I'd do more than just help be a veteran presence in the locker room, even though he's only like 30. And it could help with jersey sales as well. Think about it. Simeon, Seager, Story, those guys are going to sell jerseys. But if anything happens, I'll definitely be back with another video. So if you guys have any more comments or questions, put them down below, and I'll hop off in about a minute. Deals haven't been massive. If Story goes to Houston, I think it would be a 1-year deal. I don't think Story wants a 1-year deal. I think the Rangers are willing to give him 2, so I think that's a better incentive for Story to come to Texas. But I think Story wants 4. I think he wants a little bit more protection from Tato. I'm good. No other questions for me. And from Waffleman, when is the Seager and Simeon jerseys coming? I'm not sure on that. Probably when the regular season starts. But yeah, I'm not sure. But make sure for all you guys to join the Discord, because some of the first breaking news is on there. The link is in the description. But that's about it for me. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And the last comment from Chase Tidwell: left field, DH, or third base for Story. Definitely a possibility. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you subscribers and watchers. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.